and Gabe. Is this our 4th episode?
Oh no.
I believe this is our 4th episode of movie reviews. Now this week, we actually both watched the same movies. The movies are The Zookeeper's Wife and Inglourious Basterds. One starring Jessica Chastain, the other Brad Pitt, and a long list of really good actors. All right, Sierra, why don't you tell us a summary of The Zookeeper's Wife?
In The Zookeeper's Wife, there's a family, and there are zookeepers, and the Nazis are overruling Poland, and they start to work in the resistance against the Reich to save what's left of their animals and Jews in the ghetto.
All right. So I think together we came up with the idea that the auteur theory worked very well. Why don't you tell us how the auteur theory works for it?
It basically just says that the film depicts the director's vision and like what they wanted the film to be, and I think it's kind of self-explanatory as to how it could fit for pretty much any movie.
Especially this one being nonfiction, like director had an idea, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So now we're going to share with you our ratings of the film using the same rating system we always use.
All right. It's going to be out of 100. So,
Okay.
Sierra, on the entertainment aspect of The Zookeeper's Wife, why don't you tell us how you felt?
I gave it a 15 out of 25. It held my attention kind of on and off. It wasn't like a really intriguing storyline. Nothing about it like stood out to me really. It was definitely unique. There's not really like any other Holocaust story that I can think of that's like set in a zoo talking about like the things that this one does, but overall it wasn't really that entertaining.
For myself, entertainment-wise, I really did not. It didn't catch my attention most of the time. It was very slow. There wasn't a lot of actions or anything that could push it forward. There was, I mean, they can't really help it since it's based on a true story. So, like, there was suspense. And that's what really got the viewer's attention. It really didn't stand out from any other Holocaust movies that I've seen. So, educationally, how did you feel?
I gave it a 25 out of 25 because it is a true story and everything that was depicted in the film actually happened, so the whole entire movie is pretty much a new learning experience for the viewer. And how did you feel about it?
I agree. I also gave it a 25 out of 25. It's a story not many people have heard of. It's something you could take into a school and show kids, like, for them to learn, like, a piece of the Holocaust. Artistic standpoint for The Zookeeper's Wife, what do you think?
The cinematography was satisfactory. It wasn't really anything special or out of the ordinary. The sound production and just the general production of it kind of fit together. It set the mood to fit the plot pretty well, like with its ups and its downs. There were minimal special effects, but with a story like this, you don't necessarily need a lot of special effects. And the acting was nothing special. It was kind of boring in some parts. It wasn't really anything that caught my attention. The characters were kind of dull. They didn't really have much personality. And yeah, they were most lifeless, but I don't really think that anybody can be lively in the midst of a Nazi takeover. And I gave it an 18 out of 25.
All right. For myself, I gave it a 16 out of 25. I mean, I thought in the cinematography area of changing it from, like, there were kind of bright colors at the beginning, towards the end it was mostly dark, gray skies. Nothing was really colorful. And that was due to, like, the theme of the movie, like the darkness that was going on. I thought that was good, but really anything else, I didn't think the acting was outstanding. I didn't think it was very, it was an original story, but, like, the way it was filmed, like, wasn't super original. It clearly got done what it was intended to. It educated people on a story. So I gave it a 16. On a literary standpoint, how did you feel about The Zookeeper's Wife?
I gave it a 15. Like I said before, the characters were pretty dull. They didn't really have much personality or individuality. The setting was really unique since it was set in a zoo, and it's kind of unusual for a Holocaust story. The plot was steady and easy to follow, but that probably has something to do with why it wasn't as entertaining as most movies. The conflict was obvious, and it was pretty consistent throughout the entire story.
Okay. I gave mine a 17 out of 25. I thought you can't really blame the writer. It's a true story, so they had to go by a certain set of rules based on how it was, how it actually happened. I didn't really see much character development either. It might be because in real life there really wasn't much character development, but I really believe there probably was, considering it was during the Holocaust and people's lives changed. But the father, I really saw, was the only one that I really saw character development, because he started out being skeptical about letting Jews come into his home, and then by the end of the movie he was helping tons of Jews come in and out of his home, and he became a rebel. Final scores for Zookeeper's Wife. I had a 68. What did you have? 73.
73. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to review Inglourious Basterds, and Gabe's going to give us a summary.
All right. So, Inglourious Basterds basically is a story about a team of Jewish fighters who sneak into Nazi France and basically try to kill as many Nazis as possible, with other stories going on in the background, and an attempt to kill Hitler himself.
We both agreed on cave theory for the theory that most accurately fits this film. Can you explain why?
Yeah, cave theory basically says that the viewer believes like what they're watching is real life, and but in reality, like the viewer knows like it's not actually true. This fits very well because this movie was put in the past in a period of time that like with stuff that was actually going on, but it's events that never ever happened. So this works well because it makes the viewer believe what they're watching. Sierra, how did you feel on the entertainment part of it?
I gave it a 25 out of 25. I absolutely loved it. It was really entertaining. The mixture between suspense and goriness and comedy was probably the best part about it. It kept me entertained the entire time. I felt myself having a hard time not focusing on it. There were so many different stories going on at once. It was really easy to find myself being completely entertained with at least one of them, if not all.
I also gave it a 25 out of 25 for myself. Quentin Tarantino made one of the best, it's one of his best movies actually. He does very well at making his movies funny and gruesome. He gets the audience to leave the theater in shock and laughter. So that's a key element to a Quentin Tarantino movie, and this one did very well at doing that.
On the educational value, how did you rate it?
I gave it an 11 out of 25. Obviously, nothing in this movie is real. You can't really take many lessons from it because it's a revenge movie. It's all about revenge, and revenge in real life usually doesn't end up right. It's not a right thing to do. So in this movie, I guess what you could say is you can get that from the movie is revenge is bad. So that's why I gave it an 11. Sierra, what did you give it?
I gave it a 10. Since, like you said, it's completely fictional, there's nothing that you can really take from it, and the most that I learned is that Brad Pitt is really funny.
That he is. Artistically, for Inglourious Basterds, how did you feel?
I gave it a 25. The cinematography was phenomenal. The overall aesthetic was vibrant and alive with a sense of energy and intensity, and the usage of sound effects really heightened every action scene. It amplified pretty much all of the scenes, actually. The usage of special effects provided the shock factor that left such an impression on me that I loved. It amplified the action scenes and made them memorable and disturbing with a sense of humor behind them. The acting was incredible and probably in my top 3 favorite aspects of the film. How did you rate it artistically?
Artistically, I also gave it a 25. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. The aesthetic was perfect. You know it's a Tarantino movie because of the way so many different stories are going on at the same time, yet it fits together perfectly, yet unexpectedly. The makeup crew / special effects crew did amazingly with all the violent scenes that they have. Also with like set design, you have the most realistic scenes, and they're huge. On the acting, every dialogue was... They had long dialogues, which switched language to language. You have Christoph Waltz, who he actually won an Oscar for this in the supporting role, and he did very well. And you have several of the other actors. They would just switch between languages mid-conversation. Just basic memorization. I mean, the acting was incredible. So that's why I gave it a 25 out of 25.
How did you rate the literary aspect of Inglourious Basterds?
For the literary, I thought that they did a pretty good job. The setting was a very good place for it to be. Nazi France rather than Nazi Germany, where it'd just be a bloodbath. They had several different conflicts going on at the same time, but they all came from the big conflict of the Axis versus Allies. What I really thought that this movie showed was the empowerment of Jews. That's basically what the purpose of the film was to show some revenge. That's what the revenge theme was it came from Jews getting back at the Nazis, killing Hitler, even though Hitler killed himself at the end of World War II. I think just a pretty obvious symbol of the movie was the way they would scalp the Nazis. This showed like a connection to like the Native American genocide, which the Native Americans would scalp the invading Americans. That was a good symbol for them to show like how the Jews were doing the same thing to the Nazis, except the Nazis didn't win the war.
Stay woke.
Stay woke. And that's why I gave it a 19 out of 25. How did you feel on the literary side of things?
I gave it a 20. Stop.
One up me.
Quit.
Keep going.
The characters were absolutely hilarious. They had so much personality, especially Brad Pitt's character. I absolutely loved him. Everything he said was hilarious and kept me thoroughly entertained. The only sense of character development that was really shown was in Shosanna Dreyfus, which is the cinema owner. And we see her going from a kind of small-seeming, soft-spoken woman when she first has her encounter with Frederick Zoller, who is the starring soldier. And then we later see her as an empowered woman who is sacrificing her life, her greatest companion's life, and her beloved theater just to kind of kill off the most powerful Germans in the Reich. The setting wasn't heavily featured in the film, really. There were some like key moments where you could kind of be impressed with the setting, but it wasn't really like one of the most prominent aspects of the film. But it fit the plot well, and it kind of tied the story together with the jump scenes and how things were playing out. The plot was fairly complex, but it was still easy to follow and still entertaining. And there were many conflicts depicted, which also added to the high entertainment value And the falsified nature of the film, like Gabe said, is pretty much just giving the empowering sense to the Jews after World War II.
Okay, so for Inglourious Basterds, I ended up with an 80, and you had a
79.
79. All right, very close once again. All right, guys, that's it. That's a wrap. Sierra and Gabe are out. We are done.